A few days ago, I made a video on why IISER might not be a best option for you. So, in this video, I would like to talk about who IISER is for and what are the pros of joining IISER. Now, all the stuff mentioned in this video are based on the opinions and experiences of me and my friends and many fellow IISER alumni that I have talked with. But before I talk about the pros of joining IISER, let's first talk about the concept of IISERs and why IISERs were made back in 2006. Now, this I think is something that is slowly being lost now that IISERs are becoming very popular. But I think it's important to know who the IISERs actually target, who the target demographic is. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about the concept of IISERs and why they were established in 2006. So, in Indian academia, there was a general feeling that there is a need for undergraduate level institutions for sciences, just like there are IITs for engineering. Now, the demand for something like IISERs dates back to 1980s, and it's only in 2006 that the first IISERs were established to act as IITs but for basic sciences, which basically means to get undergrads fresh from school into research. So basically, the target demographic of IISERs are students who had just passed their class 12th and are interested in doing sciences. IISER gives them ideal environment to succeed in getting more research experience and thus enabling them to succeed in the game called academia. Now, this brings me on to the first point, which is if you are someone who's really interested in research, then IISER is really the best option you have in India. To begin with, you get a peer group of like-minded people who are really interested in doing what they want to do. Like I can give you some examples. Like when I used to live in the hostels of IISER Kolkata, we used to have endless discussions with my roommates and our fellow friends about mathematics, be it physics, be it quantum mechanics, abstract number theory, so on and so forth. So if you enjoy these kind of stuff, then I think for you, IISER is a heaven. And the second thing is, in IISERs, you are encouraged to ask good questions. It's really not rote learning that you get there. So you become a critical thinker, especially when you are interacting with some of the brightest minds in India. You learn to look at things from different and fresh perspectives. And this really helps if you decide to continue in academia or switch to industry. And this brings me on to my second point, which is the open academic environment at IISERs. Now, IISER professors mostly are quite nice. So nice that, they'll spend nights with you talking about some abstract theory. One of my fond memories from IISER Kolkata is actually discussing when I was in my third year with our director and his PhD students and my fellow friends and my roommate about random quantum information stuff. And we used to have discussions late into night, like even 1 a.m. So it's really, really open environment in IISER. So you get to ask questions, you get to learn from professors, and so it's quite a nice experience. Something that I don't think you can even have in any other institution in India. Brings me on to the third point, which is the emphasis on skill development. Now this, I think, is one of the most unique things about IISER, is that it makes you a literal master of your field. Be it coding, be it physics, be it mathematics, or so on. Now, some of you might think, okay, these skills are not that useful in, say, an industry job or something. But if you look at the R&D industry here in Europe or in the US, these skills are highly, highly valued, much more valued than any degree. And I think this is one of the best things about doing a PSMS at IISER, is that you become highly, highly skilled. This nicely brings me on to my next point, which is opportunities abroad. Now, as an IISER student, you slowly evolved into this highly skilled researcher, which is something that is highly valued in the West. And thus IISER has lots of mutual agreements with these foreign research institutions, and you can take advantages of those to go to abroad and do your research work there. Just to give you an example, IISER has an MOU with École Nationale Supérieure, which is ENS in France, with the Max Planck Society in Germany, and various other universities across the globe. In fact, IISER graduates are so much in demand that just before we graduated, we were visited by the consulate staff of the US consulate in Kolkata and also from the German consulate in Kolkata. We also get visits from French consulate in Kolkata, so on and so forth. So you see, IISER graduates are so much in demand in the West that even staff from consulates keep visiting the campus just to encourage people to go to their respective countries. I remember once one of my IISER professors joking that apparently there is more buzz for IISERs in the West than in India. And now that I live in Germany and look back, he probably was correct. Now, this brings me on to the next point, which is basically living in Europe or the US and how the extensive IISER alumni network really helps you. Now, let me tell you a little secret. For each country, there is a WhatsApp group or a community of all IISER alumni in that country. So, for example, for Europe, we have the IISER Europe WhatsApp community, which is a community of all the groups of all IISER alumni across Europe. So you are basically just a message away from connecting from people from across the EU. Now, this is really helpful if you're moving to Europe or you're just like roaming around places. Just to give you an example, I was helped a lot by fellow IISER alumni here in Berlin when I moved in to get an apartment, to deal with the bureaucracy and so on. When I visit places, I just ping in the group, is there someone in this city, and then connect with fellow IISER folks. Like last time around, I was in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago, and I just pinged in the WhatsApp group of 2024 alumni that, is there someone there? And I suddenly just found like 6 people near Amsterdam. And then we were all like roaming around Amsterdam discussing about our IISERs and so on. But yeah, so this is an amazing network. You also get access to some of the really well-established alumni. So for example, I was attending this conference called EPG, which is basically the yearly meeting of the German Physics Society. And I just pinged in the IISER Europe group if somebody is attending this. And lo and behold, I found about 20 folks from IISER Kolkata in that meeting. And then we found a group, and then we went on to, have lunches together, dinners together, so on and so forth, and discuss each other's time at IISER Kolkata. So yeah, it is quite fun. I've also been told that there are similar cases for when there is American Physics Societies meeting in the US. They find a lot of IISER Kolkata people and make a group of their own. So yeah, you see, there is big IISER community in US and EU and all other countries actually. There is also IISER Australia, IISER Japan, and so on. So yeah, this alumni network really helps. Also, you get to personally know a lot of the well-established alumni from IISERs. For example, I got to meet one of the IISER alumni from IISER Kolkata who is now a group leader at Max Planck. So imagine like one of your seniors being leading scientists at a Max Planck institution. So just to give you some examples from my personal experience so far, I have contacted alumni who work at Oxford. One of them is a professor at Oxbridge. I've also contacted alumni in Max Planck's, alumni who are working for the German government, alumni who are working for the Dutch government, alumni who are working for the Danish government. I know alumni who have their own startups here. I know alumni who are really rich by working in finance and investment banking. I know alumni who are shifted to consultancy after doing their PhD. So yeah, the alumni network's really extensive, and the older alumni, especially from older IISERs like Kolkata and Pune, are really established now. So they really help you out when the need be. So this is a major underrated pro of joining IISERs. Now let's talk about the next point, which is the quality of life as a researcher in a Western society. Now, unlike India, scientists are highly valued in the Western society and are well compensated. Now, this basically means as a PhD student, you get good respect and also a good enough salary. Well, how good? Well, you won't be buying a BMW right off the bat, but yeah, it's good enough to your expenses, including your rent, your food, exploring Europe, and so on, saving up a lot of money by Indian standards, all the while sending money home. Now, this is possible thanks to the fact that you get your salary in usually very strong currencies. For example, the euro is a very strong currency. So, say even if you send like 200 euros, which isn't a lot by German standards, it's a lot in INR, and that really helps. When you start to earn in euros, you suddenly realize things like a 600 euro phone or a 200 euro watch are really not that expensive for you anymore, unlike, say, if you were in India. Also, sure, there is a housing crisis, but still, other things in the Western societies are much better than in India. Be it the roads, the infrastructure, the general safety of folks outside, the pollution levels, the benefits that you get for taxes, and so on. So all of this might sound a lot of vague rant from me, but believe me, when you are at my stage, you will begin to appreciate these facts. Now coming to the burning question that a lot of you have been asking, what after a PhD? Well, after a PhD, you become a really highly skilled and valuable individual for the society. So you can either go for a startup, you can easily enter the R&D industry here in the West, or you can even go back to India and work there as a faculty member or so on. And yes, opportunities for research in India exist. I know a lot of seniors who have moved back to India and are now professors even at IISERs. So yeah, IISER students are now professors at other IISERs. So yeah, it's there, but the thing is, it's usually the lack of funding that discourages people from moving back to India. Also, if you plan to stay in the West, then it becomes easier for you if you are a PhD holder. So for example, as PhD students, we have a special category of visa, and even as postdocs and so on, they have a special category of visa called guest researcher, which is a high priority visa. That basically means your visa gets processed really quickly. So this really shows you that as individuals, you are really wanted in the West. So I think this still is the best way to immigrate. Want to immigrate to a Western society. Now this brings me on to the very last point. Was it worth it? Like, is it even worth it for you as a student to join IISERs, given all the uncertainties? So before I go on to answering this really subjective question, let me get a bit philosophical with you, the viewer. Now that it's even raining outside in typical Berlin fashion, now most of you watching this video are either fresh 12th pass outs or class 11 students looking to join IISERs. Now believe me, I was in the same position back in 2018-2019. It's just that I now have a perspective of hindsight, so I know stuff that I didn't know. But back when I was joining IISER, I knew the uncertainties, but I decided to join anyways because one, I was really interested in doing mathematics or physics. Second, I understood the fact that to be successful, you actually have to accept the uncertainties. Nobody has ever been successful by walking the beaten road. You always have to take the road not taken. So the way to become successful in any field is to do something unconventional. This sounds very counterintuitive to a very Indian mindset, which always says you must follow set convention, but yeah, if you want to achieve something big, something groundbreaking, you have to do away with the convention. So my professor always tells me, if you are sure about getting a certain results, then you probably aren't doing research. So uncertainties are just a day-to-day reality of doing research, and believe me, as you go on, you'll just become really acquainted to it. So yeah, they are there, but yeah, it's worth it if you are interested in doing research. If you ask me now, was the 5 years at IISER Kolkata worth it? Then I would say yes. If I were back in 2018, 2019, I would go again and take IISER Kolkata again. The friend group I got, the discussions, the late night discussions we had with the directors, all those stuff, I miss them a lot, and I would do anything to relive them. So yeah, I really think it was really worth it. Not even worth it, it was life-changing for me to join IISER Kolkata. So yeah, with that, I think I would like to conclude. Needless to say, all of the things in this video are based on my personal opinion and experiences, and also the experiences of my friends and my batchmates. And before ending this video, I would really like to thank my friends from IISER, be it on this side of the pond, be it in EU or be it in the US. I know I can barely talk with the people in the US and Canada because of the time zones, but yeah, it's really an amazing experience to have friends like you. So keep in touch, keep calling, although it's like a 6-hour time delay. See you guys.